Okay. So y'all can see the scripture. So if y'all want to turn to your Bibles, you can go right ahead. And we're gonna get into it. So there was a lot of good lessons in tonight's scripture, and I'm excited about it. Okay, so we're coming from the Old Testament. The author of Esther is unknown. It's speculated that it was a Persian Jew, because the author was very familiar with the customs and the traditions of um, the Jewish culture and what they were doing and all of that stuff. So, there's speculation that the author of Esther could have been a Jewish person, but we're not completely 100% sure. Um, so the section headers. Oh, let me show y'all the verse map. It's a lot. I know. It's a lot of words. A lot going on tonight. Um, the section headers were the plan. These were like, okay, if you don't pay attention to the section headers, this story, thank you. This story was one of the ones where, like, if you just looked at the section headers, it would give away the story. It would be like it was spoilers everywhere in these sections. And so sometimes, like, if you don't, like, sometimes I can be like very impatient when I'm reading, and I will like skip over stuff because I'm like, okay, get to the point, or get to it. And so I remembered this story, and I was like, I think I know what's happening next. And I looked at the section headers, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what's coming next. So the section headers were the plan of Mordecai and the promise of Queen Esther, because I did 14 through 16, so half of it was in one section and half of it was in another section. And then Esther agrees to help the Jews. Esther learns of Haman's plot, and Esther plans to intercede. So those were the section headers. So I'll just read to you the verse now. This is the New King James Version that I notated for tonight. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? I kind of skipped over 15. And then 16 says, go gather all the Jews who are present in Sushan and fast for me. Neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise. And so I will go to the king, which is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. So let me give you a little bit of background, okay? Esther is a queen that basically kind of went through this process, to, like, a beauty contest, if you will, to become the queen. And the king, when she was in the contest, he really was choosing on her tough. So she won. She became the queen, but she wasn't true about who she really was, right? She was a Jewish Persian. But I think she was a Persian. She was Jewish, okay? Don't quote me on the Persian part. She was Jewish, but she didn't necessarily let the king know that she was Jewish. And the king had a right-hand man, Haman. And Haman was evil. He was an evil little something. So, just they were asking people to bow when Haman was walking around, and Esther's cousin was like a G. He was like, "No, I'm not bowing." So that's not happening. So Haman saw him. He was mad. He was jealous. He was angry. He was like, "Why aren't you bowing? You're disrespectful. I'm just going to go and I'm going to get all of your people, the Jews who decide that they're above the law and they don't want to bow. I'm going to get y'all killed." Okay? So he went to the king and he was like, "King, this is what I want to do. You should sign off on it. Let's do it." So the king was like, "Cool. You got the money to do whatever you want to do. Go kill whoever you want to kill. Here's my signet ring. You can sign off on it, make a decree, and do whatever you got to do." So the signet ring was like his signature. I come from higher education background, right? And so when I thought about the signet ring, it was basically a ring that you wore and you can basically stamp it on everything, and that's like your signature. So it made me think about, when I was when the president of a university, they sign a lot of things. And so sometimes they don't always, sign. Like the president of university is not always sitting there signing everything. Sometimes they have a stamp. And whoever gets a hold of that stamp can basically put their name on whatever they want to. And so that's Haman got a hold of that, and so he was very power hungry. He got a hold of that signet ring, and he said, on this day, all the Jews will be killed. He sent it out. He signed it. He, stamped it with the ring, sent it out, and so then all the Jews who were okay. Let's see. Charlotte wants to be a part of our video, so we're gonna try something new today. I don't know if she meant oh, she declined, so maybe she didn't mean to do that. Okay, so all the Jews who were in the land were it's okay, Charlotte. All the Jews in the land started going into mourning. And this is where we see the custom of dark clothing come into play. When you go to a funeral and you're in mourning and you wear dark clothes, that this is kind of where that came from. They would put on sackcloth, and sackcloth, I'm guessing, was of a dark shade. And they were crying, they were wailing, they were in mourning, they were sad. We're gonna die, they're gonna kill us, our day is coming, we don't know what to do. So mind you, this all started from Mordecai, Esther's cousin, who was a Jew. They were Jews. And she found out what happened. She sent him some clothes. Take off your sackcloth. Don't be in mourning. Don't be out. He was right outside the king's gates doing all this hollering and mourning and crying and whining. So she sent him something else to put on. He refused. And so he sent her a message. He said, "Look, you're a Jew. I'm a Jew. A letter has come from your kingdom, from someone in your husband's camp, that we are going to be killed. If you don't do something, then don't think that if you're going to be quiet that you're going to be saved too. You and your father's house, all of us, we're going to be wiped out if you keep it quiet. If you don't say anything, if you don't do anything, then we're all gonna be killed. And who's not to say that you weren't, chosen as the queen for such a time as this, for this moment right here? Who's not to say that this is the reason for you to be queen to save us all?" So message got back to her, and she said, she sent a message back to him and was like, it's against the law for me to just approach the king. Back then, even though she was his queen, even though they were married or whatever, you can't just approach the king unless you're summoned. And if you did, the only way like you would be saved and not killed from doing that is if he extended his gold sword. So anyway, her cousin Mordecai convinced her to, you know, go to the king and try to save all the Jews, her hood, her family, where she came from, her people. So she said, "Look, Everybody needs to fast. Fast for 3 days, 3 days, 3 nights. Don't eat anything. I'm gonna do the same thing. My maids are gonna do the same thing. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna go. It's against the law. I'm stepping out on a limb here. If I perish, I perish. Long story short, um, she got in her husband's ear. She overturned the law. The man Haman, who was his right hand man, who put this in play, who really wanted to kill Mordecai and all his people, he ended up getting killed himself, right? So it's a really good story. Really, really, really great story. So I would suggest that you go read it for yourself so you can see, because it's like, drama for your mama, okay? So I pulled out a couple of lessons um for leadership in this, and there are four lessons that I extrapolated from this verse. um the first thing that has nothing to do with leadership, that's not included in the four, is Mordecai told her, you can stay quiet and you cannot say something, and if you don't say something, then the Jews will still be saved by another source. So basically, what he was saying is, God is going to come through for us whether you do this or not, whether you fulfill your purpose for being a queen right now or not. So he was telling her that you can't skirt the will of God. You cannot go around it. You There's this post that I posted, I think is so sweet and so humbling, and it says, you can think that you may have messed up God's plan, but sweetie, you are not that powerful. Okay, so Mordecai was basically telling her, you're there for a purpose, and I believe you were placed here for this time. But even if you don't do what you're supposed to do in this moment, we'll still be saved, honey. Okay, because that's the will of God. We're still gonna come out on the other side of this. Um, okay, so that's one. Well, that's not one. That's just, that's a little sidebar. Okay, so number one was wise counsel. Esther was in the palace. She was the queen. She was the beloved. She was the adored queen of King Ahasuerus. And she had her maids, and she had it made at that point, but she still had family back in the hood. Her cousin Mordecai was out here not bound to the king, and he sent a message to her, and she listened. She listened. So, um, the lesson in this is that you should be open to wise counsel. She was smart enough to listen to what he had to say, take it into consideration, and really receive a pep talk from him. So, one, you should surround yourself with wise counsel. And you should be able to discern between wise counsel and unwise counsel. And when you get those pep talks from wise counsel, you should be open to receive what they say. So, one, she was open to receive a word, a message, a pep talk from wise counsel. Now, sometimes people aren't so sensitive, because what he was saying was, look, you're here for a reason. Now, whether you fulfill that reason or that purpose or not, it's still gonna get done. But you need to step up to the plate. You need to quit being like a little whiny baby right now. You need to do what God has put you here to do, for real. And so it might not have seemed so sweet and soft and nice at that point, but sometimes you have to listen to wise counsel. That was one. Two, okay. Once she, oh, this was another thing. I need to add it. I was thinking about it when I was reading it. I didn't write it down, but this was another thing. Um, when you're when you're placed in a certain position, God puts you on a platform, or he puts you in a certain place, sometimes you need to be looking for the purpose that he has for you in that place, in on that platform, in that opportunity. For you need to be looking for the purpose that God has for you to step up to the plate and fulfill it. Y'all know I like Cardi B, right? If you follow her back before she became famous or whatever, there was a little spout she had between a girl that the girl didn't like her, and Cardi had her own perception about why the girl didn't like her, and they were in an argument, and the girl was like, I have my reasons, and Cardi was like, what was the reason? What was the reason? What was the reason? Like, when God puts you in a space and he gives you an opportunity, you need to be looking around like, what is the reason? What is the reason? What's the reason? Why am I here? What does God want me to do in this moment? What is God's will for my life in this place where I am, where he has placed me? So when you are put into certain situations and you have opportunities to do certain things, you need to be you need to have your eyes and your ears open to know what the reason is that God has you in that place. Okay? So I need to add that. Hey Victoria girl. I need to add that. I don't really have any room on my verse map. But anyway, I'm just gonna move right on. Okay. After she listened to her wise counsel, she realized what the reason for her being in that position was. She immediately had a plan. She said, okay, go tell Mordecai, this what we gonna do. We gonna fast. We're gonna fast for 3 days and 3 nights. We're not gonna eat anything. Tell everybody this is what they need to do. This is the plan. Not only did she have a plan, watch this. Not only did she have a plan, but her plan included God. That's key. That is, yes, Erika. What was the reason? Yes. Okay, but anyway, her plan included God. She could have said, we're going to have a riot against the king, and we're going to break down these walls of of the kingdom, and I'm going to lead the charge. She could have said anything. She could have come up with anything, but her plan included God. That brings me to one of my favorite scriptures. It starts with Proverbs third chapter 5th verse, but the second one is Proverbs 3:6. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. So in fasting and praying is a way to get a open connection with God. For you to sacrifice something, to get a connection, to hear from him, to, put things away that you would sacrifice that are important to you, for you to be able to say, hey, I'm sacrificing these things. I want to hear from you. I want to honor you. I want to acknowledge you. I want to lay these things at your feet. And that goes to Matthew 6 chapter 17th verse, where I'm gonna skip over some of this stuff. Well, really Matthew 18th verse, when Jesus first talked about praying and fasting. He taught the disciples how to pray. He gave them the Lord's Prayer. And then afterwards he talked about how you should fast. And he was saying, when you fast, don't fast and be looking all raggedy. Comb your hair, wash your face, and don't do it so other people can see and be like, oh, I'm fasting. Oh, woe is me. I can't eat that right now. I can't listen to that right now. Can't do X, Y, Z. So to make it, make people pity you. It's between you and God when you're fasting. This is a me and God thing. This is a personal thing. And it says that when you fast, and you fast to your Father in a secret place, he will reward you openly in a public place. So she immediately had a plan, and her plan included and acknowledged God, so that he'll direct her path. Next, she led by example. Now, as I am studying leadership and change management, not in favor, and the research shows that top down change does not is not statistically successful. But if you are going to implement a top down change where you say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, let's do it, you at least need to lead by example. And that's what she did. Not only did she say, this is what we're going to do, she said, we're going to do this and I'm going to do it. And not only am I going to do it, my people on my top level are going to do it as well. Y'all going to fast and pray? Y'all going to fast for 3 days? Don't eat nothing for 3 days and 3 nights? I'm going to do it and my mates are going to do it as well. You cannot ask something of somebody that you're not willing to do yourself. And having the buy-in of your counterparts on a higher level, a leadership level, will create buy-in for those up under you and will deter resistance. So I could be the president of the organization and say we're going to do this, and if none of the people in my cabinet are on board from it, how do you think the people that report to them are going to think about it? Right? So you have to have a buy-in. Thanks, John. You have to have a buy-in from on all levels. And so last but not least, oh, this is good. Um, and it's like a culmination of all of the other levels. I mean, all of the other lessons in leadership, right? She had courage. Um, she said, you know what? It's against the law for me to go to him and ask something of him when I am not summoned. I could be killed. So she had the plan and she stepped out on a limb. As a leader, sometimes you have to be willing to be the fall guy. She was willing to be the fall guy for all of her people in this moment. And she said, not only did she have the courage, not only did she put herself out there, and this brings me to, I love this. Um, um, there was a situation where I made a mistake, and I always try to be accountable for my mistakes. I try to love my mistakes so that I can learn and grow from my mistakes. And this mistake was going to affect a major event that we were having for my job, and we had to communicate with different people. And I was talking to my supervisor and I said, you know what, I made a mistake. I was supposed to do this. I overlooked it. I didn't. So, it's my fault. I'll take the hit for it. And my supervisor told me, no. Anything that happens in my area is my responsibility. So, leaders who are accountable and are willing to own everybody's mistakes and take the L are way more respected than people who are ready to place the blame, who are trying to skirt the issues, who are trying to cover up, and who are not accountable for mistakes and for mishaps and things. So, she was courageous and she was willing to die for all her people. So she stepped out there. She said, if I perish, I perish. And the other thing about her saying, if I perish, I perish, was her showing that she had a plan, she acknowledged God, she trusted God. But not only that, she was saying, if it doesn't work, she was basically saying this may not work. Like, part of change management is being transparent and it's being open to flaws. Like nobody's perfect. No leader has a perfect plan, right? And so I think that's part of the reason why, part of the reason why people don't buy into changes is because they don't trust it, and leaders aren't being transparent, and they try to roll out things as if they have all the answers when in actuality they don't have all the answers. So when she said, if I perish, that if was basically showing them that I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this is the best plan. I may die from this, but this is all I got. This is what we're going to do. I'm being transparent. And she showed her heart. She showed her vulnerability. And transparency begets trust capital. So when people who are following you don't trust you, they don't believe in you, they don't think that you're up to something good, they're uncertain, they're unclear, they don't know what's going on, you're not transparent, they're more likely to be resistant and buck the change. But when she said that, if I perish, I perish, and when she was willing to put herself out and be the fall guy for if the plan backfired, I'm sure they were like, okay. Because at that point, they really had nothing to lose. Because if she stayed silent, they were gonna die. But if she put herself out there was at least a chance that her plan would work and they would still live. So read Esther. Read it. It's a great story in leadership. She's a great leader. We can learn so many things from her. And I just feel like the presence of God on this verse map today. And I'm just so grateful to have thought to, I'm looking at this from where I'm studying, from a place of leadership with my doctoral studies, and to be able to apply this, it's just like I feel like God's hand is all on this. So I'm just grateful to him for exposing this word today. So let's see what Erika said. Sometimes all you've got is a but God said, and you just gotta let faith walk for you. That's true. Like, but God is such a powerful statement. Sometimes that's all we have. Sometimes is but God. One day I'm gonna get me a T-shirt made that says "But God." I really am. But God and not today, Satan. Those are my two T-shirt goals. So, yes, I would. And truth be told, Esther is a great book. Oh, here's another great tidbit, fun fact about the book of Esther. God is not mentioned not once in this whole book. He's not mentioned. But if you read between the lines, you can see that he's all up and through that book. He's all up and through the book of Esther. And he works through her. He works through Mordecai. Um, and so yeah, read that book. It's amazing. Um, yeah, verse mapping Monday, guys. I hope you got a word, and y'all have a blessed week.